Welcome. Tonight we are traveling back to one of the most challenging and sobering chapters in modern history. You are here to relax, to settle in, and to let your mind slowly wander as we explore the quiet, patient rhythms of the past. Close your eyes if you wish. Imagine the present slowly fading. The hum of your room falls away, replaced by a soft drizzle of rain on packed earth, the distant call of a night watchman, the steady rustle of boots along a muddy path. You are about to step into a world that, a little more than a century ago, was all too real. This is life in a World War I trench, and more. Over the next 2 hours, we will gently immerse ourselves in 4 distinct stories. First, a detailed walk through daily life in the trenches, then the extraordinary but quiet story of the Christmas truce of 1914, followed by a look at one of the great mysteries of the war, the fate of the lost battalion, and finally, a contrasting glimpse into the calm offices and map rooms where generals planned battles far from the mud. We begin with the trenches. Imagine yourself stepping down into a narrow line carved into the earth. The trench is narrow, just wide enough for 2 men to pass each other with shoulders brushing. The earth walls rise taller than your head. They are damp, glistening with moisture. Wooden planks line the floor, though they do little to keep the water away. It has rained for days and puddles form between the boards. Your day begins before sunrise. The first sound you hear is not birdsong, but the low call of the sergeant ordering, "Stand to." This is a ritual in the early light. Every man standing ready, rifles in hand, facing the front. For a few tense minutes, you wait, peering across no man's land as the sun begins to lift. Most days, nothing happens, but the routine cannot be skipped. When stand to is over, the routine of the day begins. Breakfast is simple: tea, bread, and perhaps a bit of tinned meat if supplies are good. You eat where you sit, your tin mug balanced on your knee, steam curling into the chill morning air. There is always work to do in the trench. You may be asked to reinforce the parapet with sandbags, to drain water from a low spot, or to carry boxes of ammunition up and down the communication trench. Sometimes you are sent on a wiring party after dark, to repair or add barbed wire out in no man's land. This is dangerous work, but tonight you are spared that duty. The trench smells of earth, damp wood, and smoke. A faint haze of cigarette smoke hangs in the air where men gather to rest. When it rains, the air is heavy with the scent of wet wool as every coat and blanket soaks through. The constant damp brings on a condition known as trench foot. To prevent it, men rub their feet with whale oil and change into dry socks when they can. Still, many end up with aching, swollen feet from standing in the cold water. You notice the sounds around you, the low murmur of conversation, a shovel striking earth, the far-off rumble of artillery. Sometimes a shell lands closer, sending dirt into the air. The men barely look up. They have learned to tell from the sound if a shell is going to land near or pass overhead. Rats scurry in the corners, emboldened by the smell of food and refuse. They are large, too large, and you push one away from your pack with the toe of your boot. Flies buzz when the weather is warm. The trench is not a clean place. Waste has to be managed, and the smell lingers. At night, the trench grows quieter, but never fully still. The men whisper, write letters home by the light of a candle, or simply sit with their thoughts. Occasionally, a flare bursts over no man's land, washing everything in white light, and you freeze, motionless, until the light fades. Sleep comes in short stretches, often in dugouts, narrow underground rooms reinforced with timber. You curl up on a rough cot or blanket, helmet nearby in case of sudden shell fire. The ground above vibrates faintly when the guns begin again. Despite the hardships, there are moments of calm. You share a quiet joke with a comrade. Someone brews tea and passes it around. A letter arrives from home, its paper creased, its words bringing a piece of another world into this one. This is the rhythm of trench life, monotony, discomfort, sudden alarms, then long periods of waiting. The days blur together. The war seems far away and yet impossibly close, just beyond the wire. And so the routine continues, day after day, night after night. Until one day something unusual happens. It is late December, and the air is sharper now. A thin layer of frost clings to the edges of the trench. The mud has grown firm in places, and the breath of each man rises like mist. Christmas is only a few days away, though here, on the front, it feels very far from home. In the days leading up to the holiday, there is a strange quiet. The guns fall silent more often, as though even war is pausing to take a breath. Men receive parcels from home, socks, tobacco, chocolate, small gifts wrapped carefully. You unwrap yours slowly, taking comfort in the familiar handwriting on the tag. On Christmas Eve, the sky clears. The stars shine brighter than you have seen them in weeks. Somewhere down the line, you hear singing, soft, hesitant at first. It is a carol, sung in a language you do not understand, the voices carrying over the still night air. One by one, men along your trench begin to listen, heads tilted, smiling faintly. Then someone near you begins to hum along, then sing back, the same tune, but in English. The two melodies meet in the air above no man's land, weaving together in a way that feels almost unreal. By morning, the quiet has deepened. When you peer cautiously over the sandbags, you see something unusual. A small fir tree, its branches decorated with candles, placed on the edge of the enemy trench. No shots are fired. Instead, voices call out, greetings, gestures of goodwill. One man, braver than most, climbs out of the trench, slowly, carefully. He stands in the open, holding up his hands. From the other side, a soldier does the same. Before long, more men climb out, until there are dozens walking across the frozen ground. You climb out too, heart beating a little faster, boots crunching on the frost. The air is cold, but still. When you meet the soldiers from the other side, you shake hands. Someone shares a cigarette, another offers a small piece of cake from his parcel. Laughter rises, hesitant at first, then freely. The two sides exchange gifts, buttons, caps, chocolate, even a little beer. Someone produces a football, and soon a casual game begins. You watch as men who were firing at each other days ago now run, kick and cheer. The sound of boots striking the frozen earth echoes across the battlefield. Letters are written that night describing the truce in careful words, the singing, the handshakes, the shared food. Some men say prayers together side by side in the middle of no man's land. It feels for a moment as if the war has ended, just for one night. But the next morning, the officers quietly give the order, return to the trenches. The war must go on. You climb back into your position, a little slower this time, brushing frost from your coat. When the guns begin again a day later, it feels jarring, almost unreal. And yet, the memory of that day stays with you. The small fir tree, the shared song, the handshake in the cold air. They are proof that even here, in the most unlikely of places, humanity found a way to pause just for a little while. The front returns to its usual rhythm, the waiting, the work, the distant thunder of artillery. But now you carry that memory with you, a fragile reminder that there is another world just beyond the wire, waiting for you when this one is finally over. And as you think about that, we turn to another story, one that is far less peaceful. A story of men cut off, surrounded, and lost in the chaos of battle. Imagine the trench line once more, stretching for miles. But now imagine stepping beyond it, into the forested hills of northeastern France in the autumn of 1918. It is the final months of the war, though the men here do not yet know that. The Meuse-Argonne offensive is underway, a massive push by the Allied forces to break the stalemate once and for all. Among the advancing troops is a unit that will later become known as the Lost Battalion, They are mostly American soldiers drawn from New York, and their orders are clear. Push forward through the Argonne forest and hold the position at all costs. You can picture the setting. The forest is dense and damp. Leaves are beginning to fall, the ground slippery with mud. The men march in single file, their rifles slung over their shoulders, packs heavy with supplies. Communication lines are poor, and the forest is a maze of ridges and gullies. On October 2nd, 1918, the unit finds itself farther ahead than planned. Unknown to them, the units to their left and right have stalled, leaving them exposed. By the time they realize their situation, German forces have encircled them. There is no easy way out. For days, the battalion holds its position under near constant fire. Food and water run low. The men dig in, making shallow foxholes in the damp soil, using what little cover they can find. At night, they whisper to each other, keeping their heads low, listening for the faint sounds of rescue that never come. One of the few lifelines they have is a carrier pigeon named Cher Ami. The little bird is released with a desperate message. Our own artillery is dropping a barrage directly on us. For heaven's sake, stop it. Cher Ami makes it back despite being wounded, and the friendly fire stops, sparing many lives. Still, the siege continues. Rations are gone. Some men drink from muddy puddles to keep from dying of thirst. Medical supplies are scarce, and there are no reinforcements. And yet they hold. Hour after hour, day after day, they hold their ground. When relief finally comes on October 7th, only about 200 men are able to walk out. Nearly 200 others are dead or missing, and more than 150 are wounded. The story of the lost battalion becomes a symbol of endurance. Ordinary soldiers push to their limits, refusing to give up. The forest eventually grows quiet again. Leaves cover the foxholes, and the traces of battle are slowly swallowed by moss and soil. Years later, historians return to the site. They walk the same ridges, trace the positions, and collect the artifacts left behind. Spent shell casings, belt buckles, rusted bayonets. Each object tells a piece of the story. Even now, more than a century later, the forest remembers. Standing there today, one might feel a hush, as though the trees themselves have kept the memory. It is not a battlefield filled with glory or victory parades, just a quiet patch of woods where men once endured something almost beyond belief. And as you reflect on this moment of survival, we turn now to a different perspective on the war, to the generals and planners who watched the conflict unfold from far behind the front lines, making decisions that would shape the fate of millions. Now imagine yourself leaving the forest and the trenches behind. You are walking miles to the rear, along roads that grow drier, quieter, and more orderly. The sound of the guns grows fainter with every step, replaced by the low rumble of supply wagons and the occasional motor car. Eventually, you reach a village that has been converted into a headquarters. Here, the war feels different. The air is calmer, almost peaceful. Instead of the smell of smoke and mud, you notice the scent of bread baking somewhere nearby. Horses stand tethered neatly in rows, and clerks hurry between buildings carrying maps and orders. Inside a large stone house, a table is covered with maps. Colored pins mark the positions of divisions, brigades, regiments. Generals in pressed uniforms stand over the table, murmuring quietly. Their boots are polished, their coats dry. A fire burns gently in the hearth, warming the room. This is where decisions are made, decisions that will ripple outward toward the front lines. One general adjusts his monocle and studies the map carefully. Another drafts a message to be sent by courier, knowing it will reach the trenches hours later. There is a certain stillness to their work, a steady rhythm of planning and recalculating. Meals are served on time here. Coffee is hot, bread is fresh, and there may even be wine with dinner. In the evenings, after reports are read and orders given, some officers gather to talk quietly, to play cards, or to write letters home. The war feels almost distant in this place. though its weight is always present, hanging in the air with every decision. Occasionally, they receive word of a breakthrough or of heavy losses, and the room grows very quiet. Plans are redrawn, messages are sent. Another offensive is scheduled, another wave of men to move forward. It is easy to forget, standing here, how very different life is just a few miles away. In the trenches, men sleep in wet boots, eat cold rations, and brace for shells. Here, the floors are swept, the beds have blankets, and the night is silent except for the ticking of a clock. And yet, both worlds are part of the same war. One cannot exist without the other. The decisions made here shape the days and nights of the men crouched in the mud. The rhythm of the front line is set by the quiet voices around this map table. Imagine walking back outside, under a sky sprinkled with stars. You hear the faint echo of artillery in the distance, a reminder that the war never truly sleeps. Then you walk farther still, until even the guns are quiet and the only sound is the wind. And so our journey comes to an end. We have walked through the trenches, stood in the frozen fields of the Christmas truce, followed the lonely ordeal of the lost battalion, and glimpsed the warm lamplight of a general's headquarters. Each of these places tells a piece of the same story, a story of endurance, of waiting, of choices made under impossible conditions. World War I was a war of patience as much as of action, its rhythm slow, its toll immense. As you return now to the comfort of your own space, you may notice the quiet around you, the warmth, the softness of where you rest. The past remains behind us, its sounds fading like the last echoes of distant guns. Breathe deeply, let your shoulders loosen, and allow yourself to drift gently into rest, knowing that the long night has passed and morning always comes.